I feel pretty good as I'm moving into my new office. It's 2017, and I just accepted a new job with a fancy title and a big salary. And as I'm packing up my office, I'm reflecting on how far I've come. See, this is a total 180 from how I grew up. I can afford anything I want. I'm never going to have any money problems. I can more or less do whatever I want when it comes to money. Unfortunately, I'm miserable. I'm miserable because I've learned that this new job comes with expectations of working weekends and nights, well into the late nights. This doesn't allow my core value of adventure. It comes with very little vacation days as well. It also comes with a micromanager. The person that hired me is a micromanager. That's the exact opposite of another core value of autonomy. And there's other core values that aren't being met. My need and core value of curiosity and learning and mindfulness aren't even really being met. So I've got all the money I could ever want, but I'm miserable. I'm not happy. I thought that the money would make me happy. That was so not the case. So let's see what's going on here. I thought I was going to be completely happy. I thought I was going to be ecstatic when I got this multiple six-figure a year salary, fancy title. I thought this prestige, this fame that was going to come, this money that came in was going to make me ecstatic, except unfortunately, the reality was that I was miserable. Now this shows there's even a little bit of a shot of joy here. This could probably be negative, if we're honest. Now, anytime that we think about money, we can't alone think about money as bringing happiness. Money, when it's used to support our life, that can bring happiness. Right? Happiness comes when we use our money to support our life, not for money by itself, but when money supports that life that we have. Now, when we first start talking about happiness, we have to talk about what happiness is. What is it? Is it an emotion? Is it a state of mind? It could be anything. Is it just giggling and laughing all the time? What is happiness? Now, if I ask 10 people on the street, I'm probably going to get 10 different answers, but in my experience, most of those answers are going to be some version of joy, happiness, giggling, smiling, having fun. Okay, that's what a lot of people define happiness as. But does that mean if you're not having fun 100% of the time, you're not living a happy life? Or maybe it means you have more fun than not fun? Or maybe it simply means contentment. Maybe it simply means you're kind of satisfied with how your life is going. Or maybe it means that you've got more positive emotions than negative emotions. Maybe you're able to eliminate negative emotions. That doesn't mean squash them down or suppress them. That means train yourself to not be upset by things. You probably have your own definition of what happiness means. But that's the first step, is to define what happiness actually is before we can do anything else. But most people don't spend their time thinking about what happiness is. We spend our time imagining what our life will be like when we get all this money, when we get all this fame, when we get all this status or prestige. But what we think brings us happiness isn't what actually brings us happiness. There's just like a little bit of overlap there, not that much. We're awful predictors at the future. We think it's going to be the status. We think it's going to be money. We think it's going to be fame. But once we get some status, we get that promotion, we sell that business, then what? Once we get some followers, we get a hit of dopamine. It feels pretty good until it wears off. And we get that money, and we upgrade our lifestyle, and then we get used to it. That's not what actually brings happiness. What actually brings happiness, according to happiness researcher Tal Ben-Shahar, are items that contribute to your total body well-being, your whole person well-being. Now, he has split happiness out into 5 different elements. What does it mean to have whole person well-being? Well, it means that you're healthy in all these areas of your life. And we're going to use the SPIRE acronym. So S, SPIRE, spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being says that we're in the present moment. We're not distracted by the future or the past. We're able to pay attention. We're going to do things and know that we're doing things. We're paying attention to our life. Our life is made up of what we pay attention to. It also means that we have something bigger than us. We know what our purpose is, and we're following our purpose to find a meaningful life. Now, P, INSPIRE, stands for physical well-being. Now, this is, of course, taking care of your body, eating right, exercising, being active. It's also about recharging, resetting your batteries through rest and sleep. Getting enough sleep is important. It's also recognizing the mind-body connection. Recognizing that if your body is not in good shape, your mind's going to be harder to function at its peak. And it goes the other way too. If you have overwhelming negative emotions, it's going to be hard to exercise, for example. So taking care of your body. I, INSPIRE, intellectual well-being. Now this means being curious, staying curious. We are creatures that need to use our brain. Often when people retire, for example, they're bored because they're not using their brain anymore. We're seeking out new experiences. We're learning. We're solving interesting problems. R, relational well-being. This means we're social creatures. So we're cultivating good relationships with people that we like and with people who like us. And a lesser known idea here is having a healthy relationship with yourself. Many people have heard of the golden rule: don't do to other people what you wouldn't want them to do to you. But Tal Ben-Shahar has this idea that he calls it the platinum rule. It's more important than the golden rule. It says, don't do to yourself what you wouldn't do to other people. Many of us are absolutely hard on ourselves. Now, E, this is emotional well-being. There's two sides to this. First, we're not suppressing any emotions. We recognize that having emotions is part of what it means to be a human. We understand that emotions have information in them. They're telling us something. And then the second piece is recognizing that we're not suppressing anything, but we can also recognize that we can cultivate positive emotions. Emotions come from how we think. So if we can change how we think about our life, how we think about our problems, we can cultivate more positive emotions and not experience negative emotions. Now remember, taking those two things, not experiencing a negative emotion is not the same as suppressing. Not experiencing a negative emotion means I don't get upset when I get cut off because I've changed what that means to me. I don't get upset when there's a long line at the grocery store, for example. That is healthy. That's different from saying I'm angry, but I'm going to squash it down. And now you'll notice in none of these SPIRE elements is there a financial well-being. And if you think about it for a second, it might seem weird, but money's not an end. Money is worthless by itself. So there's no financial well-being because there's no end of money. Money is only a means to an end. Money is not a goal. Money is a tool. And money is a tool that you can use to support all of these other SPIRE elements. And so what is the actual relationship between happiness and money? A lot of people act like money will bring happiness. But if pressed, they'll say, oh yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. Of course, I see that in a movie. I saw that on a meme somewhere. So what's the actual relationship? Well, first of all, it does. At the lower end of the spectrum, if you don't have your basic needs met, if you're in poverty, doubling your salary will absolutely contribute to your happiness because you're going to get more of your basic needs met. But once you're outside of getting your basic needs met, you see it does slope upwards. It does slope upwards, but it's not as steep. So what does that mean? That means that money still looks like it buys happiness. They're still related, but it takes a lot of extra money to get a little bit of happiness. So then some argue, is that really worth it? Is that worth the time and the energy to get all that extra money to get just a little bit more happiness? Or are there other things you can do with your time and energy that will bring more happiness? And that's where a lot of people go. It's not worth your time and your efforts. But we'll do you one better. Just because they're related, just because it looks like more money brings a little more happiness, that doesn't mean that money causes happiness. It could go the other way around. It could say that Happier people make more money. Happier people are easier to get along with. Happier people seek out new relationships and are going to find more opportunities. So it could be the opposite of what we think is happening. Now, just having money, getting the big salary, getting money in the bank, saving, that's not really going to bring money. Money coming in doesn't bring happiness. How you spend it can, or not, depending on how you use it. So first thing, spending money on experiences. Not things, not stuff. Experiences. Experiences are where you're going to get the biggest bang for your happiness buck. And why might that be? When you are having experiences, you're probably doing it with other people. Right? So there's that, of the SPIRE elements, you're probably hitting that relational well-being piece. And you're probably in the present moment because you're with the experience, you're with the people. That's the spiritual well-being component. Often, when you're having experiences, there's a physical component to it. So physical well-being is part of that. You're probably having fun and experiencing joy and other positive emotions. So emotional well-being is being hit. And if you're seeking out new experiences, you're hitting that intellectual well-being. It's hitting all of the elements, all of the SPIRE elements. And you get the good memory after the fact. And that's important. When you get a thing, when you buy stuff, you think it's going to make you happy because you think people are going to envy you. You're going to have your status increased. It doesn't work like that. You don't get any memories of stuff. Buying time is another good use of your money. We all have the same amount of time. So if you can pay somebody to do something that you don't have to do, it frees up your time. This is especially true if it's something you don't like doing. If it's something you do like doing, well, then that's going to be an experience, right? But if you can pay somebody, if you can delegate, if you can free up more time, that's a great way to use your money. Now, intuitively, people think if I spend money on myself, if I treat myself, that's going to make me happy. But the research shows that we're happier when we spend money on other people. And of course, if we're following our purpose, using our money to support what our meaning in life is, and then treats. Treats does not mean treat yourself. Treats means don't become used to things. Don't take things for granted. If you buy, for example, let's pick on the cappuccinos or the coffees that everybody likes to pick on. If you get a coffee every single day, you get used to that and you take it for granted. If you get a cappuccino every Friday, now it's a treat. Now you're not getting used to it. Now you'll look forward to it and you'll get the happiness from that. So happiness and money, it's complicated. It's not as straight and clear cut as you might think. But you can use your money to support your happiness. You can use your money to support those SPIRE elements. And you can use your money on experiences, time, happiness, or treats and purpose. You get one life. Live intentionally.